What if I told you that Morgan Freeman's wrong turn on a Pennsylvania backroad led him to discover one of the most extraordinary hidden art collections in American history? In a weathered Amish barn, far from Hollywood's spotlight, Freeman encountered something that challenged everything he thought he knew about art and faith. Inside, thousands of masterful wooden sculptures told a story of forbidden creativity, secret love, and an Amish craftsman who spent decades creating art that his community was never meant to see. But the real mystery isn't just what Freeman found, it's why this talented Amish artist, Elias Zook, kept his gift hidden for so long, and how a promise to a dying woman from outside his community changed everything. What happens when artistic passion collides with centuries of tradition? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Freeman's unexpected detour occurred during a break from filming, as he drove between shooting locations in rural Pennsylvania. The late autumn afternoon cast long shadows across the rolling farmland, and the actor's GPS-less journey, as was common in the pre-digital era, led him deeper into Lancaster County's maze of unmarked roads. Rather than immediately retracing his steps, Freeman's natural curiosity prompted him to continue exploring the pastoral landscape, where horse-drawn buggies and traditional farmsteads dotted the countryside. The pivotal moment arrived when Freeman noticed an unusual sight, a weathered barn that seemed to emanate an otherworldly presence. What caught his attention wasn't the structure itself, but rather the curious shapes visible through its partially open doors. Pulling his vehicle to the side of the gravel road, Freeman encountered Elias Zook, an elderly Amish craftsman who had been working quietly in his workshop for decades, creating intricate wooden sculptures that defied traditional Amish artistic conventions. Zook's barn housed hundreds of hand-carved figures, each telling its own story through fluid lines and expressive forms. The sculptures ranged from intimate, personal pieces reflecting daily Amish life to grand, sweeping works that seemed to capture the very essence of human emotion. What made these creations particularly remarkable was their departure from typical Amish artistic expression, which generally favors functional crafts over purely aesthetic works. The relationship between Freeman and Zook developed organically during that first encounter, transcending their vastly different backgrounds. Despite the cultural chasm between an Amish craftsman and a Hollywood actor, their shared appreciation for artistic expression created an immediate bond. Zook, who had never sought recognition for his work, spoke softly about his lifetime of carving, explaining how each piece emerged from the wood as if it had always been there, waiting to be revealed. Inside the barn, Freeman discovered an astonishing variety of sculptures. Some pieces stood nearly ceiling high, while others could fit in the palm of a hand. The works depicted everything from biblical scenes to abstract representations of natural phenomena, each carved with extraordinary attention to detail. Zook had developed his own techniques over the years, using simple hand tools and working primarily by natural light that filtered through the barn's weather-worn boards. The discovery raised intriguing questions about artistic expression within the Amish community. How had Zook reconciled his creative impulses with the traditional Amish values of humility and simplicity? His fellow community members had long known about his work, but viewed it with a mixture of curiosity and cautious acceptance. Zook explained to Freeman that he saw his sculptures not as acts of pride, but as expressions of gratitude for the natural world and its creator. Freeman's chance encounter with Zook's work sparked a chain of events that would gradually bring attention to this hidden artistic treasure. The actor, deeply moved by the authenticity and power of the sculptures, began quietly sharing the story with friends in the art world. However, respecting Zook's wishes and Amish traditions, Freeman helped ensure that any subsequent interest in the work remained measured and dignified. The significance of Zook's artistic achievement extended beyond the mere technical mastery of his craft. His sculptures represented a unique intersection of traditional Amish values and personal artistic vision, challenging preconceptions about the boundaries between religious devotion and creative expression. Each piece seemed to pose questions about the nature of inspiration and the various ways humans connect with their spiritual beliefs through art. As news of Zook's work gradually spread within select artistic circles, scholars began to recognize the importance of his contributions to American folk art. His sculptures represented more than just physical objects. They embodied a lifetime of observation, contemplation, and dedication to craft. The barn itself became a symbol of hidden wonders, reminding visitors that extraordinary creativity can flourish in the most unexpected places. The story of Freeman's wrong turn and subsequent discovery of Elias Zook's barn serves as a testament to the power of chance encounters and the universal language of artistic expression. What other undiscovered masterpieces might be quietly taking shape in humble workshops across the country? How many other artists work in solitude, creating not for recognition, but for the pure joy of bringing their visions into reality? The connection between art and love often yields profound revelations, and in Elias's case, his journey as a sculptor intertwined inseparably with his relationship with Sarah. As Morgan Freeman delved deeper into the story during his unexpected visit to the Amish community, he discovered how a chance encounter at a local market in 1985 sparked a transformation that would challenge both tradition and artistic expression. Sarah, a non-Amish woman who taught art at a nearby community college, first noticed Elias's skilled woodworking at the market where he sold practical items, chairs, tables, and kitchen implements. What caught her attention wasn't the craftsmanship alone, but the subtle decorative elements he incorporated into even the most mundane objects. These small flourishes, considered unnecessary by many in his community, revealed an artistic spirit struggling to emerge. Their initial conversations centered around technique and material, with Sarah recognizing in Elias a natural sculptor's eye. Despite the cultural barriers between them, she began visiting the market regularly, engaging him in discussions about art history and expression. For Elias, these conversations opened a world he had glimpsed only in stolen moments, when his hands would unconsciously craft shapes beyond mere function. The development of their relationship faced significant challenges within the Amish community. Elders questioned the appropriateness of their friendship, particularly as Sarah encouraged Elias to explore artistic expression beyond traditional craftwork. Yet it was Sarah's respect for Amish values and her genuine interest in understanding their way of life that gradually earned her acceptance among some community members. Through Sarah's guidance, Elias began experimenting with sculpture in secret, using discarded pieces of wood from his workshop. His first attempts reflected the tension between his traditional upbringing and his growing artistic voice, abstract forms that somehow captured both the simplicity of Amish life and the complexity of human emotion. Sarah recognized these early works as expressions of Elias's internal struggle, his desire to honor his faith while exploring his gift. Their love story unfolded gradually, marked by shared moments of artistic discovery. Sarah brought him books on sculpture, carefully chosen to align with Amish values while introducing new techniques and perspectives. She taught him about negative space, about letting the material speak, about finding beauty in imperfection. These lessons extended beyond art, shaping their understanding of each other and their different worlds. The turning point came when Sarah fell ill in 1992. Her diagnosis with an aggressive form of cancer forced both of them to confront the temporary nature of physical existence. It was during this period that Elias's work transformed dramatically. His sculptures began to capture moments of profound emotion, hope, fear, love, and loss, all while maintaining the humble materials and simple tools of his Amish heritage. Morgan Freeman learned how Elias created his most significant works during Sarah's final months. Each piece told a story of their relationship, from the first market conversation to their last moments together. The sculptures became a form of prayer, a way to process grief while celebrating the gift of their connection. Sarah's influence remained evident in every curve and angle, every smooth surface and rough edge. The community's response to Elias's art evolved during this period. While some continued to view his sculpture as a departure from tradition, others recognized the deep spiritual element in his work. His pieces spoke to universal experiences of love and loss, transcending cultural boundaries while remaining rooted in Amish values of simplicity and devotion. After Sarah's passing in 1993, Elias transformed his barn into a sanctuary of remembrance. Each new sculpture added to the space carried elements of their shared journey. The wisdom she imparted, the courage she inspired, the love they shared. The barn became more than a gallery. It emerged as a testament to how love can bridge different worlds and how art can heal wounded hearts. What makes this story particularly compelling is how it challenges preconceptions about both Amish life and artistic expression. How does one reconcile traditional values with creative impulse? Can love transform not just individuals but entire communities' understanding of art and faith? These questions resonated with Morgan Freeman as he witnessed the living legacy of Sarah and Elias's relationship in the barn's collection. The story of Sarah and Elias reveals how artistic expression can emerge from the intersection of different worlds, guided by love and understanding. Their relationship demonstrated that boundaries between cultures could become bridges when approached with respect and openness. Through Sarah's influence, Elias found a way to honor both his faith and his artistic calling, creating works that continue to speak to the power of love, to transform and transcend. The delicate balance between art and tradition began to fracture, as Morgan's photographs of Elias's sculptures circulated beyond Lancaster County's borders. What had started as a simple documentation of folk art transformed into an unexpected catalyst for community discord, raising questions about the boundaries between artistic expression and cultural preservation. The initial ripples of concern emerged when several English tourists, having seen Morgan's photographs in a regional art magazine, began appearing at the Miller farm. Their presence disrupted the usual rhythm of farm life, with curious visitors stopping their cars along the road to photograph not just Elias's sculptures, but also the daily activities of nearby Amish families. The unexpected attention created a growing sense of unease among the community elders, who had previously tolerated Elias's artistic pursuits as a private matter. Morgan's professional instincts had led her to capture the sculptures in their natural setting, incorporating elements of Amish life that provided context and depth to her images. While these photographs garnered praise in artistic circles, they inadvertently crossed an unspoken line within the Amish community. The public exposure challenged the fundamental Amish principle of humility and separation from the world, leading to difficult conversations between Elias and his church leaders. The bishop, traditionally responsible for maintaining community standards, requested a meeting with Elias to discuss the growing concerns. The conversation centered not only on the sculptures themselves, but on the broader implications of their public display through Morgan's photographs. How could the community maintain its valued separation from the world when modern media threatened to turn their private expressions into public spectacle? The complexity of the situation became apparent as Morgan's work attracted attention from prominent art galleries in Philadelphia and New York. These opportunities, which would typically represent career milestones for any artist, created an impossible choice for Elias. The increased visibility of his work forced him to confront the contradiction between his artistic gift and his community's values. Would pursuing broader recognition for his art mean compromising his faith and place within the community? Morgan found herself in an equally challenging position. Her photographs had revealed a unique intersection of folk art and religious tradition, offering viewers a rare glimpse into a world usually hidden from public view. Yet the consequences of this exposure weighed heavily on her conscience. The professional recognition she received came at the cost of disrupting the very community whose story she sought to tell. The tension extended beyond the immediate circle of those involved. Other Amish families began questioning whether allowing their children to visit the Miller farm was wise, given the increasing number of English visitors. The sculptures, once a source of quiet joy for the community's children, became a point of contention. Parents worried about the worldly influences that might accompany such attention to individual achievement. Local English neighbors who had long maintained respectful relationships with their Amish counterparts found themselves caught in the middle. Some defended Morgan's right to document and share what they considered important folk art, while others criticized her for potentially exploiting the community's private traditions. The debate touched on deeper questions about cultural preservation in an increasingly connected world. The situation forced both Morgan and Elias to reevaluate their roles and responsibilities. For Morgan, The ethical implications of her work became increasingly complex. When does documentation become exploitation? How could she balance her artistic integrity with respect for the community's privacy? These questions challenged her understanding of photography's power to both reveal and potentially harm. Elias faced his own internal struggle as he watched his private expressions of faith and creativity become a source of community discord. The sculptures, which had emerged from his personal journey of grief and healing, now stood at the center of a larger debate about tradition, change, and the price of artistic recognition. Could he find a way to honor both his gift and his community's values? The controversy highlighted the broader challenges faced by traditional communities in a modern world. How could ancient ways of life adapt to increasing external pressures without losing their essential character? What role should art play in bridging cultural divides, and at what cost? These questions resonated beyond the immediate situation, touching on universal themes of tradition, change, and cultural preservation. As tensions continued to mount, both Morgan and Elias realized that their choices would have lasting implications, not just for themselves but for the entire community. The path forward would require careful navigation of competing values and responsibilities, raising questions about the true cost of artistic expression in a world where privacy becomes increasingly rare. The weight of unspoken promises often bears down heaviest on those who carry them in silence. For Elias Stoltzfus, his commitment to Sarah had remained buried beneath years of dutiful adherence to Amish traditions, much like his sculptures hidden away in the barn's shadows. What compels a person to keep such meaningful promises hidden, especially from those they hold dearest? The revelation of Elias's promise to Sarah emerged during a quiet evening conversation with Morgan, who had been grappling with the community's response to her photographs. Elias explained how, in their youth, Sarah had recognized his artistic talent and made him promise to share his gift with others someday. Her belief in his abilities had been unwavering, seeing beyond the conventional boundaries of their community's expectations. The promise had been made during their courtship, when Sarah discovered Elias carving intricate patterns into a piece of fallen oak behind his family's barn. Rather than expressing disapproval, she had been captivated by the way his hands transformed raw wood into flowing shapes that seemed to capture movement itself. She understood that his art represented more than mere craft. It was an expression of his soul's connection to creation. Throughout their marriage, Sarah had quietly supported Elias's artistic pursuits, creating opportunities for him to work on his sculptures while maintaining the appearance of focusing solely on his farming duties. She would often take on additional tasks, allowing him precious moments alone in the barn where he could give life to the visions in his mind. This silent partnership became their shared secret, a private understanding between husband and wife that transcended the rigid expectations of their community. Yet, as the years passed, the promise remained unfulfilled. The sculptures accumulated, in the barn's hidden corners, their existence known only to Sarah and Elias. The weight of community expectations and the fear of disrupting their way of life had kept Elias from taking the final step of sharing his work with others. How many others in their community harbored similar hidden talents, suppressed by the fear of standing apart? Morgan's arrival and subsequent documentation of his sculptures had inadvertently forced this long-buried promise into the light. The eye, photographs, while creating tension within the community, had also served as a catalyst for Elias to confront his unfulfilled commitment to Sarah. The images captured more than just the physical form of his sculptures. They revealed the years of quiet dedication, the silent support of his wife, and the underlying struggle between personal expression and community belonging. The conversation between Elias and Morgan revealed the complexity of his position. His art represented not just individual creativity, but also a deep spiritual connection to his faith, viewing his ability to create as a divine gift. This perspective challenged the common assumption that artistic expression necessarily conflicted with Amish values. Could there be a way to honor both his promise to Sarah and his commitment to his community's way of life? The timing of this revelation proved particularly poignant, as Sarah's health had been declining in recent months. The urgency of fulfilling his promise took on new significance, transforming from a long-delayed intention into an imperative act of love and respect for his wife's unwavering support. The question now facing Elias was not whether to share his art, but how to do so in a way that honored both his promise to Sarah and his responsibility to his community. Morgan's role in this unfolding story had shifted from that of an outside observer to an unexpected catalyst for change. Her photographs, while initially creating waves of discomfort within the community, had become instrumental in bringing Elias's hidden promise to the surface. This development raised important questions about the role of outsiders in helping communities confront their own unspoken truths and challenges. The revelation of this promise added new layers of complexity to the ongoing tensions surrounding Morgan's photographs. It transformed the narrative from a simple clash between tradition and modern documentation into a more nuanced exploration of personal integrity, marital trust, and the delicate balance between individual expression and community harmony. How would the community respond to learning that one of their own had long harbored such artistic aspirations? What implications would this have for others who might be concealing similar talents and dreams? As the sun set on this revelation, the barn's shadows seemed to hold not just Elias's sculptures but also the weight of countless other hidden promises waiting to be fulfilled. The question remained, could the fulfillment of one promise lead to positive change within the broader community? Or would it create irreparable rifts in the fabric of their shared life? The revelation of Elias's unfulfilled promise to Sarah created ripples throughout the community, forcing both traditionalists and progressives to confront the delicate balance between preserving heritage and embracing change. How could ancient customs coexist with evolving artistic expression without diminishing either's significance? The initial resistance from the village elders stemmed from their deep-rooted belief that traditional art forms should remain unchanged, passed down through generations exactly as their ancestors had created them. Their concerns centered on the potential dilution of cultural identity, questioning whether modern interpretations might overshadow the original meanings embedded in their ancestral artwork. The elders' perspective, though rigid, carried the weight of centuries of preserved history and wisdom. Elias's contemporary interpretations of traditional motifs represented more than mere artistic evolution. They embodied the bridge between past and present. His work incorporated ancient symbols and patterns but breathed new life into them through innovative techniques and materials. The younger generation of the village, particularly those who had exposure to urban art scenes, recognized the value in this fusion. They understood that art, like culture itself, needed to remain dynamic to stay relevant. Sarah's role in this cultural dialogue proved pivotal. Her documentation of both traditional and contemporary art pieces helped demonstrate how modern interpretations could actually strengthen rather than weaken cultural identity. Through her careful cataloging, she illustrated how Elias's work paid homage to traditional elements while creating something uniquely powerful. What emerged was a compelling argument for artistic coexistence rather than replacement. The breakthrough came when the village council proposed establishing dedicated spaces for both traditional and contemporary art forms. This approach acknowledged the importance of preserving pure traditional practices while creating opportunities for artistic innovation. The solution involved designating specific areas within the community center where traditional artwork would remain unchanged, while other spaces would showcase evolving interpretations. Implementation of this compromise required careful consideration of display methods and presentation contexts. Traditional pieces received placement in areas that highlighted their historical significance, complete with detailed information about their origins and meanings. Contemporary works, including Elias's pieces, occupied spaces that emphasized their connection to traditional roots, while celebrating their innovative elements. How would this physical separation and intentional curation affect viewers' understanding of the relationship between old and new? The community's response to this arrangement exceeded expectations. Visitors could trace the evolution of artistic expression, understanding how contemporary pieces drew inspiration from traditional works while developing their own distinct identity. Young artists found encouragement in this model, which demonstrated how respect for tradition could coexist with creative freedom. The arrangement sparked meaningful discussions about cultural preservation and artistic growth. Educational programs emerged naturally from this new framework. Elder artisans began conducting workshops teaching traditional techniques, while contemporary artists like Elias led sessions exploring modern interpretations. This educational component strengthened the community's understanding of both artistic approaches and fostered appreciation for their unique values. What started as a contentious issue transformed into an opportunity for intergenerational learning and cultural enrichment. The compromise also attracted attention from neighboring communities facing similar challenges in balancing tradition with progress. The village's solution offered a template for others grappling with questions of cultural preservation in a changing world. Researchers and cultural preservation experts began studying this model, recognizing its potential applications in broader contexts. Economic benefits materialized as the village's artistic reputation grew. Tourism increased as people traveled to experience this unique approach to cultural preservation and artistic evolution. Local artisans found new markets for both traditional and contemporary works, creating sustainable opportunities for artistic expression. The financial success helped validate the compromise and demonstrated how respecting both old and new could strengthen the community's economic foundation. The resolution of this artistic dilemma revealed broader truths about cultural adaptation and preservation. It demonstrated how communities could honor their heritage while embracing change, suggesting that tradition and progress need not be mutually exclusive. The village's experience raised important questions about the nature of cultural preservation itself. Could the act of allowing controlled evolution actually help protect and perpetuate cultural heritage more effectively than rigid preservation? This newfound balance between tradition and innovation created unexpected opportunities for cultural dialogue and understanding. It showed how artistic expression could serve as a bridge between generations, between past and present, and between different worldviews. What began as a challenge to community harmony transformed into a model for cultural adaptation in an ever-changing world. The successful resolution of the art exhibition conflict marked more than just a compromise between modern expression and cultural tradition. It became a catalyst for profound transformation within both the Chen family and their community. How does a single event ripple outward to touch multiple lives in unexpected ways? The exhibition, titled Bridges Where Tradition Meets Tomorrow, opened on a crisp autumn evening at the Golden Gate Cultural Center. Mai Chen's contemporary interpretations of traditional Chinese art shared space with carefully curated historical pieces from her grandmother's collection. The innovative display design allowed visitors to trace the evolution of artistic techniques across generations, creating a visual dialogue between past and present. What emerged from this thoughtful presentation exceeded everyone's expectations. Art critics praised the exhibition's ability to demonstrate how cultural heritage could be preserved while allowing for growth and reinterpretation. The show attracted diverse audiences, from traditional art enthusiasts to young artists seeking inspiration, proving that authenticity and innovation need not be mutually exclusive. For Grandmother Chen, watching visitors engage with both the traditional pieces and Mai's modern works brought an unexpected sense of pride. Her initial resistance transformed into appreciation as she observed how her granddaughter's art helped younger generations connect with their cultural heritage. The exhibition became a bridge not only between artistic styles, but between generations of Chinese Americans searching for their identity in a multicultural world. Mai's professional reputation flourished in the aftermath of the exhibition. Gallery owners and collectors who had previously overlooked her work now recognized her unique ability to honor tradition while pushing creative boundaries. Yet the most significant impact wasn't on her career. It was on her relationship with her family. The process of creating the exhibition had opened channels of communication that had long been closed, allowing for deeper understanding and acceptance on both sides. The local Chinese American community experienced its own transformation. The exhibition sparked discussions about cultural preservation in a modern context, leading to the establishment of new programs at the Cultural Center. These initiatives focused on teaching traditional arts while encouraging contemporary interpretation, ensuring that cultural heritage remained relevant and accessible to future generations. Other families facing similar challenges found inspiration in the Chen family's journey. Parents and children who had struggled with balancing cultural expectations and personal expression began having more open dialogues. The exhibition served as a template for how families could honor their roots while embracing change and individual growth. The cultural center itself evolved, implementing regular programming that paired traditional and contemporary artists in collaborative projects. This new approach attracted younger community members who had previously felt disconnected from their heritage, creating a dynamic space where culture could be both preserved and renewed. What started as a single exhibition developed into a sustainable model for cultural engagement. Educational institutions took notice of the exhibition's success. Several local schools incorporated its principles into their multicultural arts programs, teaching students how to respect and draw inspiration from their cultural backgrounds while developing their unique artistic voices. The impact extended beyond the arts, encouraging discussions about cultural identity and evolution in other aspects of life. The Chen family's story became a case study in how conflict could lead to growth when approached with openness and respect. Professional mediators and cultural organizations studied their journey, identifying key elements that could help other families navigate similar challenges. The experience demonstrated how preserving tradition and embracing change could coexist, creating richer, more nuanced cultural expressions. Long-term effects continued to manifest in unexpected ways. Young artists from various cultural backgrounds sought guidance from both Mai and grandmother Chen, creating an informal mentorship network that bridged generational and cultural gaps. The exhibition's success challenged other cultural institutions to reconsider their approach to traditional and contemporary art presentation. Perhaps most significantly, the exhibition created a template for addressing cultural evolution without losing connection to heritage. It showed how love for tradition and desire for individual expression could strengthen rather than diminish each other. The Chen family's journey from conflict to collaboration became a testament to the power of understanding, demonstrating how legacy could be honored while creating space for new interpretations and growth. As the exhibition's impact continued to ripple through the community, it raised important questions about the nature of cultural heritage itself. How does tradition remain vital in a changing world? What role do younger generations play in carrying forward cultural legacy while making it their own? The answers would continue to evolve, just as culture itself does, guided by the example of how one family found their way to embrace both the past and the future. The morning light filtered through the studio windows as Morgan stood before the first sculpture, her breath caught in her throat. The piece, standing nearly 6 feet tall, captured more than just the physical form. It held within its curves and angles an essence that transcended mere artistic representation. What made this discovery particularly poignant was the realization that these works had remained hidden, waiting silently in the shadows of her grandmother's studio for decades. The sculpture before her depicted a woman in motion, her form suggesting both strength and vulnerability. The medium, a combination of bronze and steel, created an interplay of textures that drew the eye from one detail to the next. How had her grandmother managed to infuse such life into cold metal? The technical precision spoke of years of dedication, yet it was the emotional depth that truly commanded attention. Morgan's trained eye, developed through years of art historical study, recognized influences from various modernist movements, but there was something uniquely personal in the execution. The piece seemed to defy categorization, blending elements of abstract expressionism with classical figurative work in a way that felt revolutionary, even by contemporary standards. What stories lay beneath the surface of this masterful creation? As she circled the sculpture, new details emerged with each step. The artist's fingerprints remained visible in certain areas, preserved in the metal like fossilized memories. These intimate traces of her grandmother's touch created an unexpected connection across time, bridging the gap between past and present. The intentional preservation of these marks raised questions about the artist's relationship with her work. Was it a conscious decision to leave these personal signatures, or had they survived as unintended testaments to the creative process? The technical complexity of the piece became more apparent upon closer inspection. The welding points were nearly invisible, creating seamless transitions between different sections of metal. This level of craftsmanship challenged common assumptions about women artists of that era, who often faced skepticism about their ability to handle industrial materials and techniques. Had her grandmother faced similar prejudices? The evidence of her mastery stood as a silent rebuke to such historical biases. Morgan's attention was drawn to the sculpture's base, where she noticed subtle engravings that seemed to form a pattern. These markings, almost hidden from casual observation, suggested a deeper layer of meaning waiting to be decoded. The discovery prompted her to consider how many other secrets these works might hold, and what insights they might offer into her grandmother's artistic philosophy. The emotional impact of the sculpture grew stronger with prolonged observation. While the figure's pose suggested movement, there was also a sense of suspended animation, as if the subject had been caught between moments of action and contemplation. This duality created a temporal tension that spoke to universal human experiences of transition and change. What personal experiences had inspired this powerful representation? As Morgan moved to examine the sculpture's other features, she noticed how the light interacted with different surfaces, creating subtle variations in tone and texture. This interplay between light and material demonstrated her grandmother's sophisticated understanding of environmental factors in sculpture. The way the piece seemed to transform throughout the day suggested it was designed to be experienced differently as natural light conditions changed. The scale of the sculpture proved particularly significant. Its human-sized proportions created an immediate sense of relationship with the viewer, while its slight elevation on a custom-designed base established a subtle hierarchy that demanded respect without intimidation. This careful consideration of spatial relationships revealed her grandmother's awareness of how viewers would physically interact with the work. Technical excellence aside, what struck Morgan most profoundly was the emotional resonance of the piece. Despite its abstract elements, the sculpture conveyed a clear narrative of human experience, one that seemed to speak directly to her current situation. Could her grandmother have anticipated that these works would one day serve as a bridge between generations? The question lingered as Morgan prepared to examine the next piece in the collection. The discovery of this first sculpture marked more than just the beginning of Morgan's exploration of her grandmother's artistic legacy. It represented the opening of a dialogue between past and present, between artist and heir, between creative vision and historical context. What other revelations awaited in the remaining works? The answer lay in the silent forms that surrounded her, each holding its own story, waiting to be understood anew through contemporary eyes. The sculptures scattered throughout Elias and Sarah's garden transcended mere artistic expression, each piece serving as a tangible chronicle of their shared journey. These carefully crafted works stood as silent storytellers, their weathered surfaces holding decades of memories that began to unfold before Morgan's observant eyes. The first piece that drew Morgan's attention was a delicate bronze casting of intertwined hands, positioned near the garden's entrance. The detail work revealed every line and crease, capturing a moment when youth still blessed the subject's skin. The date etched at the base read 1952, marking Elias and Sarah's first year of marriage. What compelled them to preserve that specific moment in metal? The answer lay in the subtle positioning of the fingers, where Sarah's hand gently guided Elias's, teaching him the art of sculpture, their first collaborative piece. Further along the winding path stood a series of smaller works, each representing milestones in their relationship. A child's toy rendered in limestone spoke of dreams unfulfilled, while nearby, a bronze bird taking flight captured their decision to channel their creative energy into art instead of parenthood. The progression of their technical skill became evident through these pieces, showing how they learned and grew together as artists. The central garden area housed their more ambitious works, including a massive oak tree sculpture fashioned from salvaged metal. The piece incorporated items from their daily lives, old tools, kitchen implements, and machinery parts, transformed into leaves and branches that reached toward the sky. This particular sculpture took them 3 years to complete, with Elias handling the welding while Sarah designed the overall composition. The dated signatures revealed they finished it in 1967, during a period when industrial art gained prominence in the contemporary art scene. One corner of the garden held pieces that spoke of darker times. A fractured concrete column, deliberately left unfinished, bore the date 1973, the year Sarah faced a serious illness. The rough edges and exposed internal structure reflected the vulnerability they experienced during that period. Yet beside it stood a smooth, polished marble piece depicting healing hands, dated 1974, marking her recovery and their renewed dedication to their craft. The evolution of their artistic style manifested clearly through the chronological progression of works. Early pieces showed classical influences, with realistic interpretations of natural forms. As decades passed, their art embraced modernist elements, experimenting with abstract concepts and unconventional materials. What drove these stylistic changes? The answers lay partially in the dates corresponding to their travels and experiences documented in gallery shows across the country. A collection of smaller pieces lined the Eastern Path, each marking annual anniversaries. These intimate works revealed personal jokes and shared memories. A tiny bronze coffee cup commemorating their daily ritual, a twisted wire sculpture representing their first dance, a stone carving of their beloved first cat. These pieces spoke in a private language understood fully only by their creators. Near the garden's heart stood what appeared to be their final collaborative work, an incomplete sculpture of two figures merged into one form, left in a state of perpetual creation. Tools lay nearby as if the artists had merely stepped away for a moment. The unfinished nature of this piece raised questions about intention versus circumstance. Did they mean to leave it this way, or did time simply run out? The placement of each sculpture suggested careful consideration of sightlines and natural light. Morning sun highlighted certain pieces while others revealed their full beauty in afternoon light. This orchestration of shadow and illumination demonstrated their understanding of how environment affects art appreciation. How many years of observation led to such precise positioning? Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Beyond their artistic merit, these sculptures functioned as a diary in 3 dimensions. They recorded celebrations, struggles, artistic breakthroughs, and quiet, everyday moments. The collection reflected not only Elias and Sarah's growth as artists, but also the depth of their partnership. Each piece added another layer to their story, revealing how two creative spirits found ways to express their shared experiences through tangible forms. The garden itself emerged as perhaps their greatest collaborative work, a living gallery where art and nature engaged in constant dialogue. Seasonal changes brought new perspectives to each piece, while weathering processes added patina and character over time. How did they envision this space evolving? What future stories did they hope these silent sentinels would tell? The weight of responsibility settled heavily on Jonas's shoulders as he grappled with the complex dilemma before him. How could one balance the duty to protect family against the obligation to share something extraordinary with the world? This question plagued his thoughts as he watched his father's sculptures continue to draw increasing attention from the art community. Jonas had always served as the bridge between Elias's isolated world and the outside community, carefully managing inquiries and deflecting unwanted attention. His role as gatekeeper had become second nature over the years, but recent events forced him to question whether his protective instincts were truly serving his father's best interests. The sculptures that had once been private expressions of grief and love were now generating serious interest from galleries and collectors who recognized their unique artistic merit. The internal conflict intensified when prominent art curator Marcus Chen reached out directly to Jonas, expressing genuine appreciation for Elias's work. Unlike previous inquiries that focused primarily on commercial potential, Chen demonstrated a deep understanding of the emotional depth embedded within each piece. His thoughtful analysis of the sculpture's symbolic elements and technical mastery suggested someone who could properly contextualize and present Elias's art to the world. What troubled Jonas most was the realization that his father's gift might be bigger than their family's private grief. The sculptures spoke to universal themes of loss, love, and memory that resonated with viewers on a profound level. By maintaining such strict privacy, was he inadvertently preventing others from finding solace and connection through his father's work? The question nagged at him, challenging his long-held belief that protection meant isolation. Jonas observed how visitors to the property would often stand transfixed before certain pieces, their expressions revealing deep emotional responses. Some would weep quietly, while others would remain in contemplative silence for extended periods. These reactions suggested that the sculptures possessed a power to heal and connect that transcended their original purpose as personal memorials to Sarah. The practical aspects of managing increased public interest also weighed heavily on Jonas's mind. How could he protect his father's privacy while acknowledging the growing demand for his work? The delicate balance between exposure and preservation seemed increasingly difficult to maintain as word of Elias's talent spread through the art community. Each new inquiry forced Jonas to confront the possibility that his protective instincts might be holding back something important from the world. Professional obligations added another layer of complexity to Jonas's situation. As someone who had built his own career in the art world, he understood the potential impact his father's work could have on contemporary sculpture. The technical innovation and emotional authenticity present in each piece represented a significant contribution to the field. Did he have a responsibility to the broader artistic community to share these achievements? The relationship between father and son had always been characterized by unspoken understanding and mutual respect. Jonas wondered how this dynamic might shift if he chose to advocate for greater public exposure of the sculptures. Would Elias view such a suggestion as a betrayal of trust? Or might he welcome the opportunity to share his work with a wider audience? These questions remained unasked as Jonas continued to navigate his role as protector and potential promoter. Memory played a crucial role in Jonas's deliberations. He recalled his mother's appreciation for art and her belief in its power to transform lives. Would Sarah have wanted these deeply personal tributes to remain hidden, or would she have seen value in sharing them with others who might find comfort in their beauty? The answers seemed to shift with each passing day as Jonas observed the impact the sculptures had on those fortunate enough to encounter them. The technical mastery evident in Elias's work presented another compelling argument for wider recognition. Each piece demonstrated innovative approaches to material manipulation and form that could advance the field of sculpture. The art historian in Jonas recognized the potential educational value of these techniques, while the son worried about exposing his father to unwanted scrutiny and potential criticism. As pressure mounted from the art community for access to Elias's work, Jonas found himself at a crossroads. Should he maintain the protective barrier that had shielded his father for so many years? Or was it time to consider a carefully managed introduction to the wider world? The answer would require balancing artistic legacy with personal privacy, public interest with family loyalty, and most importantly, determining what would truly serve both his father's well-being and the potential impact of his remarkable gift. The offer. Discovery of Rebecca's hidden sketches marked a pivotal moment in the unfolding mystery surrounding Elias's work. Tucked away in a weathered portfolio beneath her studio floorboards, the collection revealed an obsessive documentation of Elias's architectural designs spanning several years. What drove a promising young artist to secretly study and recreate another's work with such dedication? The sketches demonstrated remarkable attention to detail, capturing not only the visible elements of Elias's buildings, but also annotating theoretical structural components that weren't apparent to casual observers. Rebecca's drawings included alternative variations of Elias's designs, exploring possibilities he hadn't pursued. Her technical precision suggested formal architectural training, though her official records showed no such education. How had she developed such sophisticated understanding of architectural principles? These drawings carried dates that preceded her first meeting with Elias by nearly 2 years, indicating she had been studying his work from afar, long before their paths crossed. Margin notes in her distinctive handwriting revealed complex calculations and references to obscure architectural theories that even Elias hadn't incorporated into his public works. The connection between Rebecca and Elias's designs ran deeper than anyone had suspected, raising questions about the true nature of their eventual collaboration. The portfolio contained more than just architectural studies. Interspersed among the technical drawings were abstract sketches that seemed to decode hidden patterns in Elias's work. These patterns, when isolated and rearranged, formed recurring symbols that appeared to hold significance beyond mere decorative elements. Could Rebecca have recognized something in Elias's designs that others, including Elias himself, had overlooked? Analysis of the paper and materials used in the sketches confirmed their authenticity and timeline. The progression of her studies showed increasing sophistication, moving from simple observational drawings to complex theoretical expansions of Elias's concepts. The later sketches, dated after their first meeting, included elements that appeared in Elias's subsequent projects, suggesting a two-way influence that neither had publicly acknowledged. The discovery of Rebecca's secret studies complicated the narrative surrounding her role in Elias's work. Rather than a chance encounter leading to collaboration, evidence pointed to a carefully orchestrated convergence of their paths. Her drawings revealed an understanding of architectural principles that went beyond mere artistic interpretation, hinting at knowledge she had deliberately kept hidden. Experts examining the portfolio noted striking similarities between Rebecca's theoretical extensions of Elias's designs and actual buildings that appeared years later in different cities. These connections raised uncomfortable questions about the flow of ideas between the two creators and the true origin of certain architectural innovations credited to others. What motivated Rebecca to keep her insights hidden, rather than claim recognition for her contributions? The portfolio also contained correspondence drafts that Rebecca never sent, addressed to Elias years before they met. These letters demonstrated her deep analysis of his work and posed challenging questions about the philosophical underpinnings of his designs. The unsent messages revealed an intellectual dialogue she had been conducting in isolation, testing and refining her theories about the meaning embedded in his architecture. Financial records found with the sketches showed substantial investments in properties near several of Elias's major projects, suggesting Rebecca had been positioning herself strategically long before their paths crossed. These investments preceded significant developments in each area, indicating either remarkable foresight or inside knowledge of upcoming architectural plans. Who else might have been aware of her hidden expertise and agenda? The revelation of Rebecca's secret studies cast new light on subsequent events in both their careers. Projects attributed solely to Elias showed unmistakable elements first explored in Rebecca's hidden sketches. The timeline of these innovations aligned with periods of their closest collaboration, yet public records credited only Elias for these breakthroughs. What agreements or understandings had governed their working relationship? Among the most recent sketches were designs that had never been realized, showing ambitious extensions of Elias's architectural principles into unprecedented forms. These drawings pushed beyond conventional limitations, suggesting solutions to engineering challenges that continued to puzzle contemporary architects. Why had these revolutionary concepts remained hidden in Rebecca's private portfolio, rather than being developed into actual projects? The discovery left the architectural community grappling with questions about attribution, influence, and the nature of creative collaboration. Rebecca's secret studies represented more than just artistic exercises. They documented the evolution of architectural ideas that would shape cities and influence design philosophy for years to come. What other hidden connections might still remain undiscovered in the complex relationship between these two creators? The discovery of Rebecca's secret sketches opened a window into the past, leading to a deeper understanding of Sarah Thompson's original vision for her son's artistic legacy. As the curator of the Thompson Gallery sifted through decades-old correspondence between Sarah and various art collectors, a pattern emerged that revealed her carefully crafted plans for Elias's future in the art world. In letters dating back to 1985, Sarah had methodically documented her observations of young Elias's unique artistic perspective. Her detailed notes described how her son perceived colors differently, noting how he would spend hours mixing pigments to achieve precise shades that existed only in his mind. What drove Sarah to maintain such meticulous records of her son's artistic development? The answer lay in her own unfulfilled dreams as an artist. Sarah's personal journals, recently donated to the gallery's archives, revealed her struggle to balance nurturing Elias's talent while managing her own creative aspirations. She had studied at the prestigious Royal Academy of Arts in London during the 1960s, but abandoned her promising career to focus on her family. The journals contained numerous sketches and concepts she had hoped to execute someday, alongside annotations about how she recognized similar artistic inclinations in Elias. The relationship between mother and son evolved beyond traditional parent-child dynamics into a complex mentorship. Sarah's expertise in color theory and composition became the foundation for Elias's early artistic education. She developed an unconventional teaching method that accommodated his unique way of processing visual information, creating exercises that would later influence his signature style. Throughout the 1990s, Sarah maintained correspondence with gallery owners, art critics, and collectors, carefully building a network that would later prove invaluable to Elias's career. Her letters revealed a strategic approach to positioning her son's work in the contemporary art scene. She understood that Elias's distinctive perspective would require the right audience to appreciate its significance. How did she manage to predict the shifting trends in the art world that would eventually align with her son's artistic vision? The discovery of Sarah's extensive collection of art magazines and exhibition catalogs, annotated with her insights and predictions, demonstrated her deep understanding of the industry's evolution. She had identified emerging movements that paralleled Elias's natural inclinations, particularly in the realm of abstract expressionism and color field painting. Her marginalia suggested she was preparing for a future where her son's unique interpretation of color and form would find its place. Sarah's dream extended beyond mere commercial success for Elias. Her writings expressed a desire to create a space where neurodivergent artists could freely express their perspectives without conforming to traditional artistic conventions. The Thompson Gallery's current mission statement, drafted decades later, echoes these early aspirations. What role did Sarah's initial vision play in shaping the gallery's eventual direction? The relationship between Sarah's dream and Rebecca's secret sketches became apparent through a series of letters exchanged between the two women in the early 2000s. Rebecca, having discovered Sarah's journals after her passing, recognized the parallel between Sarah's documentation of Elias's development and her own compulsion to capture his creative process. The young artist had unknowingly continued Sarah's legacy of preserving and understanding Elias's unique artistic journey. Financial records from the gallery's early years revealed Sarah's careful investment in materials and education for Elias, often at the expense of her own artistic pursuits. She allocated resources to create a dedicated studio space that would accommodate his sensory needs, demonstrating her commitment to providing an environment where his talent could flourish. The studio's design specifications, preserved in architectural drawings, showed thoughtful consideration of lighting, acoustics, and spatial organization. Sarah's dream manifested in unexpected ways through the people she influenced. Her detailed observations of Elias's artistic process provided valuable insights for art therapists and educators working with neurodivergent individuals. The methodologies she developed while teaching Elias became the basis for specialized art education programs implemented in several institutions. How did her innovative approaches continue to influence art education long after her passing? The impact of Sarah's vision extended beyond the art world into the realm of advocacy for neurodivergent artists. Her collected writings and correspondence revealed early efforts to challenge traditional perspectives on artistic expression and ability. She maintained relationships with researchers studying the intersection of neurodiversity and creativity, contributing observations that would later inform scholarly work in the field. The discovery of Sarah's dream through these historical documents provided context for the Thompson Gallery's evolution and Elias's artistic journey. Her careful documentation and strategic planning laid the groundwork for a legacy that continued to unfold through Rebecca's sketches and the gallery's ongoing mission. The parallel between mother and protege, separated by time but united in their dedication to understanding and preserving Elias's unique artistic voice, added another layer to the complex narrative of the Thompson artistic legacy. The question, of tradition versus progress loomed large over Millbrook as news of Elias's potential art exhibition spread through the community. What had started as quiet murmurs in the local cafe and general store soon evolved into heated discussions at the town hall, where residents gathered to voice their concerns and hopes about the attention their village might receive. Mayor Thompson, who had served the community for over 2 decades, found himself at the center of an unprecedented situation. The prospect of a major art exhibition featuring Elias's work had divided the village into distinct camps. The traditionalists, led by elderly residents who had lived in Millbrook their entire lives, expressed deep reservations about outsiders disrupting their peaceful way of life. They pointed to other small towns that had lost their character after gaining sudden fame, citing examples of increased tourism, rising property prices, and the erosion of local customs. The opposing viewpoint came from younger residents and business owners who saw tremendous opportunity in the attention Elias's art could bring to Millbrook. They argued that controlled exposure could revitalize the local economy without sacrificing the village's essential character. The local inn owner, Margaret Wells, presented compelling statistics about declining visitor numbers and the struggle of small businesses to remain viable in an increasingly competitive market. The debate took an unexpected turn when historical records revealed that Millbrook had once been a thriving artists' colony in the early 1900s. This discovery prompted local historian Robert Chen to share documentation showing how the village had actually been founded on principles of artistic expression and creative freedom. How had this crucial aspect of Millbrook's identity been forgotten over the generations? The town's school teacher, Emily Parker, raised important points about educational opportunities. She explained how exposure to art and culture could benefit the local children, potentially opening doors to future careers and experiences beyond the village boundaries. Several parents nodded in agreement, recognizing that their children's futures might be enhanced by the cultural enrichment the exhibition could bring. Economic considerations became a central focus of the discussion. The town council presented projections showing potential revenue increases for local businesses if the exhibition attracted visitors. However, these figures were met with skepticism from those who questioned whether the financial benefits would truly reach the entire community or merely benefit a select few. The debate extended beyond the town hall into daily life, affecting relationships that had existed for generations. Longtime friends found themselves on opposite sides of the issue, while unlikely alliances formed between previously unacquainted neighbors. The local newspaper, the Millbrook Chronicle, attempted to maintain objectivity while reporting on the increasingly complex situation, but even its editorial board struggled to remain neutral. Religious leaders in the community offered varying perspectives. Reverend Williams of the First Baptist Church emphasized the importance of preserving moral values while embracing positive change, while Father Martinez from St. Mary's suggested that art could serve as a bridge between tradition and progress. Their thoughtful contributions added depth to the ongoing discussions. The environmental impact of increased tourism emerged as another crucial consideration. Conservation groups within Millbrook expressed concerns about preserving the natural beauty that had inspired Elias's artwork in the first place. Would the very essence of what made his art special be compromised by the influx of visitors seeking to experience it? Local artists, who had long worked in relative obscurity, found themselves drawn into the conversation. Some viewed Elias's potential success as an opportunity for greater recognition of their own work, while others worried about commercialization affecting the authentic creative spirit of the village. The artistic community's divided response reflected the larger schism within Millbrook. As the debate continued, practical questions emerged about infrastructure and capacity. The village's limited parking, modest accommodations, and small restaurants would face significant challenges if tourism increased substantially. Could Millbrook adapt without losing its charm? Would modernization be necessary, and if so, at what cost to the community's character? The situation reached a critical point when several prominent families threatened to leave Millbrook if significant changes were implemented. This ultimatum forced everyone to confront the real possibility of losing valued community members over the issue. What price was the village willing to pay for progress, and could a compromise be reached that would satisfy both sides of this increasingly complex debate? The resolution remained elusive as the community grappled with these challenging questions. The future of Millbrook hung in the balance, with tradition and progress pulling the village in opposite directions. Would the spirit of Elias's art, which captured the very essence of their community, ultimately unite or divide them? The challenge of bridging tradition and innovation weighed heavily on Morgan Freeman's mind as he contemplated the village's divided stance on artistic recognition. How could one preserve the essence of centuries-old customs while allowing creative expression to flourish in the modern world? This question became the cornerstone of his mission to find a solution that would honor both perspectives. Freeman began by methodically researching historical precedents where communities had successfully integrated change without losing their cultural identity. He discovered numerous examples across different cultures where traditional art forms had evolved while maintaining their core spiritual and social significance. These findings strengthened his conviction that Millbrook's situation wasn't unique, and a balanced approach was possible. The actor's diplomatic efforts started with individual conversations with key community members. He met with village elders who held firm to their beliefs about keeping their artistic practices private and sacred. Their concerns centered on the commercialization of their heritage and the potential loss of meaning once their art became public knowledge. What would happen to the intimate connection between creator and creation when exposed to outside scrutiny? Simultaneously, Freeman engaged with younger artists who sought recognition beyond the village boundaries. Their arguments focused on the evolution of art and its role in cultural preservation through documentation and sharing. They presented compelling cases about how other communities had used public appreciation to strengthen, rather than diminish, their traditional practices. Could increased visibility actually help protect their heritage for future generations? Morgan's approach evolved into a systematic examination of both perspectives, identifying common ground between the opposing viewpoints. He noted that both groups shared a fundamental desire to preserve their artistic heritage. They simply differed in their methods. This realization led him to develop a framework that would address the core concerns of both traditionalists and progressives. The framework began taking shape as Freeman consulted with cultural preservation experts and indigenous rights advocates. He learned about successful models where communities maintained control over how their art was shared while still gaining recognition. These examples provided practical solutions to questions about intellectual property rights and cultural ownership that had concerned many villagers. Freeman's mission expanded beyond mere mediation as he worked to create concrete proposals for the community's consideration. He developed guidelines that would allow for selective sharing of artistic works, while maintaining strict protocols about which aspects of their creative practices would remain private. The proposal included provisions for community oversight and veto power over any public presentations or exhibitions. The actor's personal investment in finding a solution grew from his own experiences with artistic expression and its impact on cultural identity. His background in performance arts provided unique insights into the delicate balance between public presentation and personal meaning. How could these insights help bridge the gap between tradition and recognition? Freeman organized small group discussions where opposing viewpoints could be shared in a controlled, respectful environment. These sessions revealed nuanced perspectives that hadn't emerged during larger community debates. Participants began identifying specific elements of their artistic practices that could be shared without compromising their sacred nature. The mission gained momentum as more villagers engaged in the dialogue. Freeman's systematic approach helped break down the complex issue into manageable components that could be addressed individually. Each small success in finding common ground built confidence in the possibility of a larger resolution. Technical aspects of art preservation became an important focus of Freeman's mission. He investigated methods for documenting and protecting traditional techniques while respecting privacy concerns. Digital archives with restricted access, controlled exhibition environments, and carefully curated public presentations emerged as potential tools for balanced sharing. The actor's dedication to finding a solution that honored both tradition and progress resonated with many community members. His respectful approach and genuine interest in understanding all perspectives helped build trust among those who had initially been skeptical of any change. What began as a contentious debate evolved into a collaborative effort to protect and preserve their artistic heritage. Freeman's mission continued to evolve as new challenges and opportunities emerged. Each step forward revealed additional complexities that required careful consideration and creative solutions. The process itself became a demonstration of how tradition and innovation could work together, as ancient wisdom combined with modern approaches to cultural preservation. The impact of Freeman's efforts extended beyond the immediate question of artistic recognition. His methodical approach to problem-solving and respect for diverse viewpoints created a model for addressing other community challenges. How would this experience shape the village's approach to future decisions about cultural preservation and change? The intersection of traditional and contemporary art forms often creates moments of profound cultural significance, and nowhere was this more evident than in the evolving artistic landscape of the late 20th century. As boundaries between conventional galleries and street art began to blur, questions arose about the true nature of artistic expression and its role in society. Who determines what constitutes legitimate art, and how do these definitions impact emerging artists? The traditional art world had long maintained rigid structures, with established galleries acting as gatekeepers to success and recognition. However, the rise of alternative art spaces and unconventional exhibition venues challenged these entrenched systems. Artists began displaying their work in abandoned buildings, public spaces, and even digital platforms, effectively democratizing access to artistic expression. This shift forced the art establishment to confront its own biases and limitations. Cultural institutions found themselves at a crossroads, facing pressure to acknowledge and incorporate diverse artistic voices while maintaining their curatorial standards. The tension between preservation and progress became particularly apparent in museums' acquisition policies. Progressive curators began advocating for the inclusion of works that traditionally would have been dismissed as outsider art or street art, recognizing their cultural and artistic merit. Technology played a crucial role in breaking down traditional barriers, with digital platforms enabling artists to reach global audiences without traditional intermediaries. Social media, in particular, emerged as a powerful tool for artists to showcase their work, connect with collectors, and build communities around shared artistic interests. How would this democratization of art distribution affect the traditional gallery system? The economic aspects of the art world underwent significant transformation as well. Alternative funding models emerged, including crowdfunding platforms and direct-to-collector sales channels. These new approaches challenged the conventional gallery commission structure and provided artists with greater control over their careers. The shift raised important questions about the sustainability of traditional art market models and the future of artistic patronage. Educational institutions began incorporating more diverse artistic perspectives into their curricula, acknowledging the importance of preparing students for a rapidly evolving creative landscape. Art schools expanded their programs to include digital media, installation art, and cross-cultural studies. This educational evolution reflected the growing recognition that artistic excellence could manifest in many forms beyond traditional mediums. Community engagement became increasingly central to artistic practice, with artists actively seeking ways to connect their work with local populations. Public art projects, collaborative installations, and interactive exhibitions transformed the relationship between artists and audiences. These initiatives demonstrated art's potential to bridge social divides and foster dialogue across different communities. The role of criticism and curation evolved in response to these changes. Traditional art critics found themselves adapting to new forms of artistic expression while maintaining their analytical rigor. What criteria should be used to evaluate works that deliberately challenge conventional artistic standards? The debate surrounding these questions contributed to a more nuanced understanding of artistic merit. International perspectives gained prominence as global communication networks facilitated cultural exchange. Artists from previously marginalized regions found platforms to share their work with worldwide audiences. This globalization of art challenged Western-centric narratives and enriched the global artistic dialogue with diverse cultural perspectives. The concept of artistic authenticity underwent significant reassessment during this period. As barriers between different art forms dissolved, questions arose about the relationship between tradition and innovation. Artists increasingly drew inspiration from multiple cultural sources, creating works that defied easy categorization. This hybrid approach to creativity sparked discussions about cultural appropriation and artistic responsibility. Conservation practices adapted to accommodate new artistic mediums and expressions. Traditional conservation methods developed for conventional materials like canvas and stone required innovation to preserve digital art, installations, and ephemeral works. How would future generations experience and understand contemporary art forms that challenge traditional preservation techniques? The art market's response to these changes revealed both resistance and adaptation. While some galleries and institutions embraced the evolving landscape, others struggled to maintain their relevance in a rapidly changing environment. The emergence of new collecting patterns and investment strategies reflected broader shifts in how society values and supports artistic expression. The breaking of artistic barriers extended beyond aesthetic considerations to include social and political dimensions. Artists increasingly used their work to address contemporary issues, challenging the notion that art should remain separate from social activism. This engagement with current events and social movements demonstrated art's potential as a catalyst for change. The transformation of artistic boundaries continued to evolve, raising new questions about the future of creative expression. As technology advanced and social structures shifted, how would the art world continue to adapt? The ongoing dialogue between tradition and innovation suggested that the breaking of barriers represented not an endpoint, but a continuous process of artistic evolution. The transition from obscurity to recognition often arrives unexpectedly, and for Elias, this shift manifested in subtle yet unmistakable ways. What began as occasional double takes from passers-by evolved into frequent interruptions during his daily routines. Local art enthusiasts would approach him at cafes, engaging him in lengthy discussions about his techniques and inspirations. While these interactions initially felt flattering, they gradually became more demanding of his time and emotional energy. The impact of his growing reputation extended beyond casual encounters. Gallery owners who had previously dismissed his work now actively sought his pieces, leading to a surge in exhibition invitations that filled his inbox daily. This sudden attention forced Elias to confront a fundamental question. How could he maintain his artistic integrity while navigating the commercial demands of success? Social media amplified his visibility exponentially. Art blogs began featuring his work without his knowledge, and images of his paintings circulated widely across various platforms. The digital spread of his art, while beneficial for exposure, created unexpected challenges. Unauthorized reproductions of his work appeared on merchandise, and misinterpretations of his artistic intent proliferated through online discussions. These developments highlighted the loss of control artists face in the digital age, where their work takes on a life of its own beyond their original vision. Professional relationships underwent significant transformations as well. Former peers now approached him differently, their interactions tinged with a complex mixture of admiration and competitive tension. The artistic community, once a source of unconditional support, revealed its hierarchical nature as Elias's status evolved. Some colleagues became more distant, while others suddenly showed increased interest in collaboration opportunities. These shifting dynamics forced him to reevaluate long-standing friendships and professional associations. Financial success brought its own set of complications. The increasing value of his work attracted attention from investment-minded collectors who viewed his pieces primarily as assets rather than artistic expressions. Galleries pressed for more commercially viable pieces, subtly suggesting modifications to his style to appeal to broader markets. These pressures tested his commitment to artistic authenticity. Would he adapt his vision to meet market demands, or maintain his original creative direction, despite potential financial consequences? Privacy became an increasingly precious commodity. Art journalists sought exclusive interviews, while collectors requested private viewings of his works in progress. The boundary between his personal and professional life began to blur, with some fans even attempting to locate his studio. This invasion of his creative space threatened the solitude he required for artistic exploration and development. How could he preserve the intimate nature of his creative process while meeting the public's growing expectations? The impact extended to his family relationships as well. Relatives who had previously questioned his career choice now sought his advice on art investments or requested commissioned works. These requests created uncomfortable dynamics, forcing him to balance professional boundaries with family obligations. Meanwhile, immediate family members struggled to adjust to his increased public profile, their private moments sometimes interrupted by enthusiastic art admirers. Decision-making became increasingly complex as each choice carried wider implications. Selecting which exhibitions to participate in, which collectors to work with, and which opportunities to pursue required careful consideration of both artistic and strategic factors. The pressure to maintain momentum while staying true to his artistic vision created internal conflicts that affected his creative process. Time management emerged as a crucial challenge. How could he balance the demands of creation with the necessary tasks of managing his growing career? Critics began analyzing his work more intensely, sometimes attributing meanings and intentions that differed significantly from his original concepts. While some interpretations offered interesting perspectives, others seemed to project contemporary, social and political issues onto his art in ways that made him uncomfortable. The weight of these external interpretations added another layer of complexity to his creative process. Should he address these interpretations directly, or allow his work to speak for itself? The evolution of his public image required careful navigation. Each public appearance, interview, or social media post could influence perceptions of his work and character. The art world's tendency to create narratives around artists meant that casual comments or actions could be magnified and misinterpreted. This awareness led to a kind of self-consciousness that threatened to inhibit the spontaneity essential to his creative process. Technology's role in his rising fame presented both opportunities and challenges. Digital platforms offered unprecedented reach for his work, but also created pressure to maintain an online presence and engage with followers. The constant connectivity expected in the modern art world competed with his need for focused creative time. How could he harness technology's benefits while protecting his artistic practice from its potential disruptions? The price of fame manifested not just in external pressures, but in internal transformations. Elias found himself questioning aspects of his work that had once felt instinctive, wondering how public reception might influence his creative decisions. The challenge of maintaining artistic authenticity while adapting to his new reality became a central theme in his professional journey. What would it take to preserve the essential core of his artistic vision while navigating the complex landscape of public recognition? The relationship between fathers and sons often evolves through moments of unexpected clarity, and for Jonas, understanding his father's musical legacy began to take shape in ways he never anticipated. After witnessing Elias's growing public recognition and its effects, Jonas found himself reevaluating the very gift that had once created distance between them. Throughout his childhood, Jonas had viewed his father's musical talent as something that separated them, a force that pulled Elias away from family dinners, school events, and quiet weekend mornings. The constant practice sessions, the late-night compositions, and the endless pursuit of perfection had cast long shadows over their relationship. But what happens when a child begins to see their parent not just as a father, but as an individual with dreams, struggles, and profound depth? Jonas's perspective shifted as he observed how others responded to his father's music. In coffee shops, he noticed people closing their eyes when Elias's songs played, their expressions softening as the melodies washed over them. During performances, he watched audience members wipe away tears, moved by compositions that had once been nothing more than background noise in his childhood home. These reactions sparked questions in Jonas's mind. How many stories had he missed while resenting his father's dedication? What emotions lay buried in the notes he had taken for granted? The transformation in Jonas's understanding deepened as he began to recognize the sacrifice inherent in his father's pursuit. The long hours of practice weren't just about personal ambition. They represented a father's attempt to create something meaningful, to leave a legacy that might outlast him. The realization brought with it a new appreciation for the complexity of parental love and the different ways it manifests. As Jonas delved into his father's musical archives, he discovered recordings from years past, each one marking a different chapter in their family's history. Some compositions corresponded with major life events, births, deaths, celebrations, and hardships. Others captured quieter moments, a sunny afternoon in the park, a peaceful winter evening, the gentle rhythm of everyday life. Through these pieces, Jonas began to understand music as his father's emotional language, a means of expressing feelings that words alone couldn't convey. The technical precision that had once seemed cold and distant to Jonas now revealed itself as a form of devotion. Each carefully placed note, every meticulously crafted phrase represented hours of dedication, not just to the craft, but to the expression of human experience. How many times had Elias tried to communicate through his music what he struggled to say in conversation? The growing public recognition of Elias's talent added another layer to Jonas's evolving perspective. Watching others discover what he had lived with all his life created a peculiar mix of pride and protective instinct. He found himself wanting to share stories about the man behind the music, to help others understand the human element that made these compositions more than just arrangements of notes on a page. In private moments, Jonas began to explore his father's instruments, running his fingers along the keys that had shaped so much of their family's narrative. The same piano that had once seemed like a rival for his father's attention now stood as a bridge between generations, a physical manifestation of their shared history. What stories might these keys tell if they could speak of all the emotions they had helped express? The complexity of their relationship revealed itself in new ways as Jonas recognized patterns in his father's music that paralleled their own journey. Moments of tension and resolution, periods of distance and connection, themes that separated only to find their way back to harmony. Through this musical lens, he began to see their story not as a simple narrative of presence versus absence, but as a complex composition with its own unique rhythm and flow. This deeper understanding brought with it a desire to preserve and protect his father's legacy. Jonas found himself documenting stories behind specific pieces, collecting photographs from performances, and recording conversations about the creative process. These efforts served not just as historical documentation, but as a way to process his own changing relationship with both his father and the music that had shaped their lives. The evolution of Jonas's perspective raised questions about inheritance that went beyond musical talent. What does it mean to be the son of someone whose gift touches others so deeply? How does one carry forward a legacy while forging their own path? These questions became part of Jonas's own journey of self-discovery, intertwining with his growing appreciation for the complexities of his father's choices. As public interest in Elias's work continued to grow, Jonas found himself in a unique position, both witness and guardian to a legacy still in the making. The music that had once felt like a barrier between father and son transformed into a bridge, offering new possibilities for connection and understanding. What other revelations might emerge as they continued to navigate this changing landscape together? The transformation of an artist often begins with a single moment of clarity, and for Rebecca Chen, that moment arrived during the bustling spring art exhibition at Oakwood University. Standing before her incomplete canvas in the student gallery, she confronted the familiar tension between her traditional Chinese artistic training and her emerging contemporary voice. How could she honor both her heritage and her evolution as an artist? The question had plagued her since childhood, when her grandfather first placed a calligraphy brush in her small hands. He had taught her the precise strokes of Chinese characters, emphasizing the importance of discipline and tradition. These lessons formed the foundation of her artistic journey, but now, at 22, Rebecca felt the stirring of something different within her work. The classical techniques seemed to constrain rather than inspire, leading to a creative impasse that threatened to derail her final year project. Professor Sarah Martinez noticed Rebecca's struggle during their weekly critiques. The talented student's recent works showed technical perfection, but lacked the emotional depth that had characterized her earlier pieces. What had changed? The professor recognized the familiar signs of an artist caught between worlds, having experienced similar challenges in her own career as a Mexican-American sculptor. During a particularly challenging critique session, Rebecca revealed her inner conflict. The pressure to maintain her family's artistic legacy while developing her unique style had created a paralyzing fear of disappointment. Her grandfather's recent illness added another layer of complexity to her artistic journey. Would pursuing her contemporary vision somehow dishonor his teachings? The breakthrough came unexpectedly during a late-night studio session. While experimenting with traditional ink techniques on a large-scale canvas, Rebecca accidentally knocked over her water container. The spilled liquid created unexpected patterns across her careful brushwork. Instead of starting over, she paused to study the interaction between control and chaos. Could this unplanned element be the key to bridging her two artistic worlds? This accident sparked a series of experimental works that combined classical Chinese brushwork with contemporary abstract elements. Rebecca began incorporating unconventional materials, coffee grounds, tea stains, and found objects, into her pieces. Each new work pushed the boundaries further, yet maintained a deep connection to her technical foundation. The resulting collection spoke to both tradition and innovation, creating a visual dialogue between past and present. Word of Rebecca's evolving style spread through the art department. Other students, particularly those from multicultural backgrounds, found inspiration in her willingness to challenge artistic conventions while respecting their origins. What began as a personal artistic journey developed into a broader conversation about cultural identity in contemporary art. Professor Martinez observed the change in her student with quiet satisfaction. Rebecca's work now exhibited a confidence that transcended technical skill, revealing an authentic artistic voice that had been waiting to emerge. The young artist's courage in facing her fears had unleashed a creative freedom that influenced every aspect of her work. The university's spring exhibition became the perfect platform for Rebecca to present her new body of work. The centerpiece, a massive mixed-media piece titled Ancestral Conversations, incorporated traditional calligraphy techniques with bold contemporary elements. The work commanded attention, drawing viewers into its complex layers of meaning and technique. Rebecca's grandfather attended the exhibition opening, making the journey from his hospital bed against his doctor's advice. His presence added weight to the moment as he slowly approached his granddaughter's featured work. What would he think of this departure from tradition? The gallery fell silent as he studied the piece, his expression unreadable. After what seemed like an eternity, he turned to Rebecca and spoke softly in Mandarin. "You have found your voice," he said, "and in doing so, you have honored our traditions more deeply than mere imitation ever could." His words validated not just her artistic choices but her courage in making them. The exhibition marked a turning point in Rebecca's artistic career. Her work began attracting attention from galleries beyond the university, leading to opportunities she had never imagined possible. More importantly, she had discovered that courage in art meant more than mastering techniques or breaking rules. It meant finding truth in one's own creative voice. Other students facing similar cultural and artistic challenges sought Rebecca's guidance. She found herself sharing not just technical advice but insights about navigating the complex intersection of tradition and innovation. How could they remain true to their cultural heritage while pursuing their unique artistic vision? Rebecca's journey offered a possible answer, through understanding that tradition serves not as a constraint, but as a foundation for growth. The semester concluded with Rebecca receiving the university's prestigious Emerging Artist Award. Yet the real victory lay not in the recognition but in the personal breakthrough that had made it possible. She had learned that artistic courage often begins with a simple willingness to question, to experiment, and ultimately to trust one's creative instincts. The process of curating an art exhibition requires meticulous attention to detail, creative vision, and a deep understanding of both the artwork and its intended audience. For Rebecca Chen, the challenge extended beyond these typical considerations as she worked to create a showcase that would bridge the gap between traditional Chinese artistry and contemporary expression. The exhibition space, located in a converted, industrial building in downtown San Francisco, presented unique opportunities and challenges. Its high ceilings and exposed brick walls offered an industrial backdrop that contrasted beautifully with the delicate nature of traditional Chinese art forms. How could this juxtaposition be leveraged to enhance rather than overshadow the artwork? Rebecca collaborated with Ming Jiang, her mentor, to develop a layout that would guide visitors through a thoughtful progression of artistic evolution. The exhibition would begin with traditional pieces, including works from Ming's personal collection, establishing a foundation of classical Chinese artistic principles. These pieces would demonstrate the time-honored techniques of brush painting, calligraphy, and silkwork that had influenced Rebecca's contemporary interpretations. The central gallery space would showcase Rebecca's fusion pieces, where traditional methods merged with modern subjects and materials. Her series of urban landscapes, rendered in traditional ink techniques, but depicting San Francisco's iconic streets and architecture, would serve as a bridge between past and present. What emotions might visitors experience as they witness this transformation of classical methods into contemporary expression? Technical considerations played a crucial role in the exhibition planning. The lighting design required particular attention, as traditional ink paintings demanded different illumination than modern mixed-media pieces. Rebecca worked with lighting specialists to ensure each artwork would receive optimal presentation while maintaining the exhibition's cohesive atmosphere. The team installed adjustable LED tracks that could be fine-tuned for each piece, considering factors such as paper texture, ink density, and color variations. Environmental controls became another critical factor in the exhibition planning. Traditional scrolls and delicate rice paper artwork required specific humidity and temperature conditions to prevent damage. The installation team implemented a sophisticated climate control system that would maintain stable conditions throughout the exhibition's duration. How would these technical requirements influence the visitor experience? The exhibition's educational component emerged as a vital element of the planning process. Rebecca and Ming developed interactive displays that would explain the principles of Chinese brush painting, the significance of various symbols in traditional art, and the evolution of techniques over centuries. Digital tablets would be stationed throughout the gallery, offering detailed information about specific pieces and allowing visitors to explore the artistic process through video demonstrations. Marketing materials needed to reflect both the traditional and contemporary aspects of the exhibition. The team designed promotional materials that incorporated classical Chinese design elements while maintaining a modern aesthetic. Social media campaigns would feature behind-the-scenes glimpses of the exhibition preparation, building anticipation, and engaging younger audiences who might not typically attend traditional art shows. Community engagement became a cornerstone of the exhibition plan. Rebecca arranged for local Chinese cultural organizations to participate in the opening events, including traditional music performances and calligraphy demonstrations. These activities would create an immersive experience that celebrated Chinese cultural heritage while showcasing its ongoing evolution in contemporary art. The exhibition catalog required careful consideration to document both the artistic and cultural significance of the showcase. Rebecca worked with art historians and cultural writers to develop essays that would contextualize the exhibition within the broader landscape of Chinese American art. The catalog would serve as both a companion to the exhibition and a lasting document of this artistic dialogue between traditions. Timing emerged as a crucial factor in the exhibition planning. The team scheduled the opening to coincide with the Lunar New Year celebrations, recognizing the symbolic significance of launching this bridge between traditional and contemporary Chinese art during this important cultural festival. What significance would this timing hold for visitors from different cultural backgrounds? The exhibition plan also incorporated space for community response and dialogue. A dedicated area would allow visitors to share their reflections and engage in discussions about cultural identity, artistic evolution, and the role of traditional arts in contemporary society. This interactive element would ensure that the exhibition remained dynamic and responsive to its audience throughout its duration. As the planning phase progressed, Rebecca focused on creating an experience that would honor the depth and complexity of Chinese artistic tradition, while celebrating its continuing evolution. The exhibition would serve not only as a showcase of artwork, but as a testament to the enduring relevance of cultural heritage in contemporary creative expression. The weight of tradition and progress hung in the balance as the village elders gathered in the ancient meeting hall to consider Maya and Sarah's exhibition proposal. Their presentation had sparked intense discussions among the community members, who recognized the potential impact this decision would have on their cultural heritage. How could they preserve their sacred traditions while sharing their artistic legacy with the world? The Council of Elders, comprising 7 respected community leaders, approached the deliberation with careful consideration. Each member brought unique perspectives shaped by decades of experience in maintaining the village's cultural integrity. The eldest among them, Rajesh Kumar, had witnessed numerous changes throughout his 82 years and understood the delicate balance between preservation and adaptation. The primary concerns centered around the protection of sacred techniques and motifs that had been passed down through generations. Several elders expressed apprehension about the possibility of their artistic heritage being commercialized or misappropriated by outside interests. These legitimate worries stemmed from historical instances where indigenous art forms had been exploited without proper attribution or respect for their cultural significance. Maya's careful integration of traditional safeguards into the exhibition plan addressed many of these concerns. The proposal included strict guidelines about photography, documentation, and the display of certain sacred symbols. Furthermore, the suggested involvement of community members as cultural guides would ensure that visitors received accurate information about the artistic traditions and their spiritual significance. The economic implications of the exhibition generated substantial discussion among the council members. The potential for sustainable income through controlled art sales and guided tours presented an opportunity to support the village's artisans while maintaining their artistic integrity. This aspect particularly resonated with younger council members who recognized the need to create viable economic opportunities for the next generation of craftspeople. Questions of authenticity and representation dominated the afternoon session. Would the exhibition truly reflect the depth and complexity of their artistic heritage? The elders examined how the proposed display methods would maintain the sacred nature of certain pieces while making them accessible to visitors. Their discussions revealed the complexity of presenting living traditions in a contemporary context. The matter of community involvement emerged as a crucial factor in the deliberations. The proposal's emphasis on including multiple generations of artisans in the exhibition's planning and execution aligned with the village's collaborative spirit. This approach would ensure that the knowledge holders maintained control over how their traditions were presented and interpreted. Environmental considerations also factored into the council's evaluation. The proposed visitor management system would help protect the village's natural resources and sacred spaces from excessive tourism impact. The elders appreciated how the plan incorporated traditional ecological knowledge into its sustainability measures. The council's examination extended to the educational components of the exhibition. They recognized the potential for strengthening cultural transmission within their own community, while educating outsiders about their artistic heritage. The proposed workshops and demonstrations would create meaningful interactions between artists and visitors, fostering genuine cultural exchange. As the discussions progressed, the elders considered the long-term implications of their decision. Would this exhibition set a precedent for future cultural initiatives? How might it affect the community's relationship with the outside world? These questions prompted deeper reflection on the village's role in an increasingly interconnected global society. The council also evaluated the proposed timeline and implementation strategy. The gradual, phased approach would allow the community to assess and adjust the exhibition's impact at various stages. This flexibility appealed to those who advocated for cautious progress while maintaining cultural integrity. Security measures for both physical artworks and intellectual property rights received thorough attention. The elders examined the legal frameworks that would protect their cultural heritage from unauthorized reproduction or misuse. Their careful consideration of these protections demonstrated their commitment to responsible cultural sharing. The village's younger generation's perspectives, though not directly part of the council's deliberations, influenced the discussions. Many elders acknowledged the importance of creating opportunities that would encourage young artists to continue their traditional practices while exploring contemporary expressions of their heritage. What role would this exhibition play in inspiring the next generation of cultural custodians? As the council moved toward their decision, they weighed the delicate balance between cultural preservation and evolution. Their deliberations reflected a deep understanding that traditions remain vital through thoughtful adaptation rather than rigid preservation. The question remained, how would their decision shape the future of their artistic heritage? The transformation of the quiet village into a bustling cultural destination marked a significant turning point in its history. As dawn broke on opening day, the previously tranquil streets began filling with an unprecedented number of visitors, creating an atmosphere of anticipation that spread through the community. The careful months of planning, renovations, and preparations finally culminated in this pivotal moment. Local artisans who had spent weeks arranging their displays made final adjustments to their exhibits. The traditional crafts, ranging from intricate basketwork to hand-woven textiles, represented generations of skill passed down through families. What would these time-honored techniques reveal to modern audiences about the village's rich cultural heritage? The exhibition space housed in the restored community center showcased the delicate balance between preserving authenticity and meeting contemporary standards. Natural light filtered through newly installed skylights, illuminating the carefully curated displays of local artifacts, photographs, and historical documents. Each piece told a story of the village's evolution, from its founding to its present-day identity. Visitors arrived in steady streams, their vehicles filling the newly designated parking areas on the outskirts of the village. The decision to keep the central village car-free proved beneficial, allowing guests to experience the community's traditional layout and architecture without modern intrusions. Tour guides, trained from among the local youth, stationed themselves at key points, ready to share their knowledge of the village's history and customs. The morning's activities began with a traditional welcome ceremony, performed by the village elders. The ritual, previously reserved for special occasions within the community, now served as a bridge between the villagers and their guests. How would this sharing of sacred traditions impact the community's relationship with its cultural heritage? Local food vendors set up their stalls along the main thoroughfare, offering traditional dishes prepared according to age-old recipes. The aromas of regional specialties wafted through the air, drawing curious visitors to sample unfamiliar flavors. The decision to incorporate culinary traditions into the exhibition provided an additional sensory dimension to the cultural experience. Craft demonstration area became a focal point of interest where skilled artisans showcased their techniques in real time. Visitors gathered to watch pottery being shaped, textiles being woven, and traditional tools being crafted. The interactive nature of these demonstrations created meaningful connections between the artisans and their audience, transcending language barriers through the universal language of craftsmanship. Throughout the village, small groups formed around storytellers who shared local legends and historical accounts. These oral histories, traditionally passed down through generations, found new audiences among the visitors. The storytellers, many of whom had initially expressed reservations about sharing their tales with outsiders, discovered an unexpected enthusiasm from their listeners. The exhibition's impact extended beyond the displays and demonstrations. Local businesses, from small shops to family-run guest houses, experienced increased activity. The economic benefits of cultural tourism began materializing, validating the community's decision to open their village to visitors. Yet how would this sudden influx of tourism affect the daily lives of the residents? As the day progressed, the exhibition's success became evident in the engaged conversations between visitors and villagers. Photographers documented traditional architecture. Scholars took notes on cultural practices, and families participated in hands-on workshops. The exchange of knowledge and appreciation flowed both ways, with visitors sharing their own cultural perspectives and experiences. The village's youth played a crucial role in bridging generational and cultural gaps. Their familiarity with modern technology and social media helped document and share the exhibition's highlights, while their deep connection to their heritage enabled them to serve as authentic cultural ambassadors. Could this engagement spark renewed interest among younger generations in preserving their traditional ways? By late afternoon, the exhibition had exceeded initial expectations in terms of visitor numbers and engagement. The careful planning and community involvement had created an environment where cultural exchange flourished without compromising the village's integrity. The success of opening day set a precedent for sustainable cultural tourism, demonstrating how traditional communities could share their heritage while maintaining their identity. As the first day drew to a close, the Alidide village buzzed with conversations about the future. The exhibition had opened new possibilities for cultural preservation and economic development, but it also raised important questions about maintaining authenticity in the face of growing tourism. How would the community adapt to its new role as a cultural destination while preserving the very traditions that made it unique? The culmination of years of dedication and perseverance manifested in ways Elias Thompson never imagined possible. As visitors streamed through the newly opened exhibition, each step they took represented a piece of Sarah's dream finally taking shape. The historical artifacts, carefully curated photographs, and meticulously preserved documents told not just the story of their quiet community, but also embodied the spirit of a woman who believed in preserving the past for future generations. What began as Sarah's simple collection of local memorabilia had transformed into a comprehensive historical archive that drew people from neighboring counties and even distant states. The exhibition space, once a neglected building on Main Street, now housed centuries of local history, each item carefully labeled with detailed descriptions that Sarah had documented over the years. Her methodical approach to preservation proved invaluable as her notes provided context that would have otherwise been lost to time. The centerpiece of the exhibition featured Sarah's prized possession, a collection of handwritten letters exchanging between the town's founding families during the 1800s. These correspondences revealed intimate details about the community's establishment, the challenges faced by early settlers, and the bonds that formed between families who would shape the town's future. What made these letters particularly special was Sarah's ability to connect them to present-day descendants, many of whom still resided in the area and contributed their own family artifacts to the exhibition. Local schools began incorporating visits to the exhibition into their curriculum, recognizing its educational value. Teachers found that students engaged more deeply with local history when they could see tangible connections to their own families and neighborhoods. The exhibition became a living classroom where young minds could explore their communities' roots through interactive displays and carefully preserved artifacts. Would these children realize they were fulfilling Sarah's vision of connecting generations through shared history? Elias observed how visitors often lingered at the photography section, where Sarah's artistic eye had captured moments of town life throughout the decades. Her camera had frozen in time the changing faces of Main Street, the construction of the town hall, and countless community celebrations. These images, now professionally restored and displayed, created a visual timeline of the town's evolution. The photographs sparked conversations among visitors who recognized familiar faces and places, leading to spontaneous storytelling sessions that added new layers to the historical record. The exhibition's success extended beyond its educational impact. Local businesses reported increased activity as visitors explored the town after touring the exhibition. The coffee shop across the street began offering heritage blend coffee, while the bookstore created a dedicated section for local history. The community's economic vitality, another aspect of Sarah's vision, flourished as people discovered the charm of their historic downtown. Professional historians and museum curators from larger institutions took notice of the exhibition's unique approach to preserving local history. They praised the personal touch evident in the curation, noting how Sarah's detailed documentation provided invaluable context for future researchers. The exhibition became a model for other small towns seeking to preserve their own histories, demonstrating how personal passion could transform into a lasting legacy. For Elias, watching people engage with Sarah's life's work brought a profound sense of fulfillment. Each visitor who walked through the doors represented another person touched by Sarah's dedication to preserving community heritage. The exhibition space became more than a repository of artifacts. It evolved into a living testament to the power of one person's vision to unite and educate generations. Local media coverage highlighted the exhibition's role in strengthening community bonds. Residents who had lived in the town for decades discovered new connections with their neighbors through shared family histories. Young families who had recently moved to the area gained a deeper appreciation for their adopted home's rich past. The exhibition served as a bridge between old and new, past and present, exactly as Sarah had envisioned. The guest book near the exhibition's exit filled rapidly with heartfelt messages from visitors touched by their experience. Many expressed gratitude for the preservation of stories that might otherwise have been lost. Others shared their own memories, adding to the growing tapestry of community history. How many more stories would emerge as people continued to discover their connections to this carefully preserved past? As Elias closed the exhibition each evening, he felt Sarah's presence in every carefully arranged display, every preserved document, and every photograph. The promise he had made to her years ago had evolved into something far greater than either of them had imagined. The exhibition didn't just preserve history, it created a living legacy that would continue to grow and evolve. With each passing generation, through this achievement, Sarah's victory extended far beyond personal fulfillment. It became a gift to the entire community, ensuring that their shared history would never be forgotten. The transformation of Elias's garden had become a testament to the enduring power of promises kept, yet its impact reached far beyond the blooming flowers and manicured paths. Morgan found herself drawn to this space in the early morning hours, when dew still clung to petals and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the leaves. What was it about this place that spoke to something deeper than mere aesthetic beauty? The garden's influence had rippled through the community in unexpected ways. Local gardening enthusiasts began incorporating elements of Sarah's original design into their own spaces, creating a patchwork of mini sanctuaries throughout the neighborhood. The Botanical Society had taken notice, documenting the unique hybrid roses that Sarah had developed, ensuring her horticultural contributions would be preserved for future generations. How many other hidden innovations lay dormant in personal gardens across the world? Morgan's documentation of the garden's restoration had evolved into something more significant than initially planned. Her photographs captured not just the physical transformation but the subtle shifts in Elias himself, the gradual straightening of his shoulders, the return of light to his eyes, the way his hands moved with renewed purpose through the soil. These changes paralleled the garden's revival, suggesting that healing often occurred in tandem with creation. The project had challenged Morgan's understanding of legacy. While society often celebrated grand gestures and public achievements, Sarah's garden demonstrated how profound impact could grow from quiet dedication. The meticulous notes Sarah left behind revealed years of patient observation, failed experiments, and persistent refinement. Each successful hybrid rose represented countless attempts that hadn't flourished, yet she had persevered. What drove such dedication to an art that might never receive widespread recognition? Local schools had begun incorporating visits to the garden into their science curriculum, using it as a living laboratory for botany lessons. Children who had never shown interest in plants found themselves captivated by the story behind each carefully cultivated specimen. Their questions often surprised Morgan with their depth. Why did Sarah choose these specific varieties? How did she know which plants would complement each other? What made her continue even when experiments failed? The garden had become a catalyst for community connection. Neighbors who had lived beside each other for years without meaningful interaction now found common ground in discussions of soil composition and seasonal blooming patterns. Morgan observed how these conversations often expanded beyond horticulture. creating bonds that strengthened the neighborhood's social fabric. Could Sarah have anticipated this broader impact when she first began her work? Professional botanists had started visiting, drawn by reports of Sarah's innovative hybridization techniques. Their studies revealed that several of her methods had independently arrived at solutions that contemporary research was only now confirming. This recognition of Sarah's intuitive understanding of plant genetics raised intriguing questions about the relationship between practical experience and formal scientific knowledge. How many other unofficial experts were quietly advancing their fields without recognition? Morgan's documentation had expanded to include interviews with people influenced by the garden. A local artist spoke of how the color combinations inspired new approaches to her palette. A grief counselor described bringing clients to sit among the flowers, finding that the space facilitated healing conversations. A retired engineer explained how studying Sarah's irrigation system had prompted him to develop water conservation methods for community gardens. What was it about this space that sparked such diverse creative responses? The garden's influence extended to environmental awareness in the community. Sarah's emphasis on native plants and sustainable practices had inspired a local movement toward ecological gardening. Residents began replacing traditional lawns with pollinator-friendly landscapes, creating corridors of habitat for local wildlife. The City Council had taken notice, incorporating these principles into new landscaping guidelines for public spaces. As Morgan reviewed her growing collection of photographs and notes, she recognized that she was documenting more than a garden's restoration or a widower's journey through grief. She was witnessing how personal passion, when pursued with authenticity and care, could create ripples of positive change far beyond its original scope. The garden stood as proof that beauty, thoughtfully cultivated and freely shared, had the power to transform not just spaces, but the people who encountered them. What began as one woman's private pursuit of horticultural excellence had evolved into a living legacy that continued to grow and influence others in unexpected ways. Through Morgan's lens, Sarah's garden revealed how the most meaningful impacts often came not from grand gestures, but from patient, dedicated work in one small corner of the world. Would future generations understand the full story behind these carefully tended beds, or would they simply feel the residual peace of a space created with love and purpose? Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.